What a difference a day makes. ES hits a new high. Not really what we were expecting at all, but here it is. Why weren't we expecting it? Because we saw weakness. We saw weakness the day before. We saw this push down. We saw this wick. Earnings-driven market, guys. Very little to say about it. We all know this. We've been through the stool at numerous times, and this is exactly what we're dealing with. We're just seeing an earnings-driven market, and I don't think there's anything really wrong with that, but I do think it's something that we must talk about. It is what it is, and instead of us telling the market what it's going to do, we have to just look at what it's actually doing, right? We can say anything we want, but the bottom line is it ripped. And it ripped with a lot of strength behind it. And people were not really expecting that. Obviously, we're talking about NVIDIA's earnings and how good they were. A lot of people are going to be like naysayers about it, and that's fine. We're going to talk about why that's kind of silly. We went through this last night in great detail, so you might want to watch last night's video. I'll actually link that at the end. And I'm going to walk through a trade here and how we played this and show you some of the P&L on the day. But most importantly, what is this setting us up for? And you can look at the NQ and you can see the break, and we'll go to the bear chart here as well. But you can sit here, I'm laughing because someone said, why do you say bear? Why can't you just say plain? But you can see the break right here and you can see down. And so what I was afraid of was I was afraid that we were going to get some kind of island reversal. Instead, we're getting an island continuation. Essentially, we have a break in the chart here, a break in the chart here, and now you're breaking out. They're pretty vicious moves, guys. Now, there is a trend line here that we're going to talk about, but let's look at it this way because it's much clearer. Right, when you see these breaks, and I have them circled, because you obviously don't have the, you have the continuation with the with the futures, and you don't have that with the index itself. And you can see right up here, right? So one of the things that I'll say, this is already drawn because I had dark mode on when we do the pre-market. Make sure you watch tomorrow's pre-market, it's packed. And you can just see the trend line here. So yep, you have a little spot up here at like 444, that little area up here. But most important, what does this mean? You have room, and this is an island. And it was supposed to reverse to the downside, and it didn't. And that's just a fact. It's just the way it is. And so again, we can sit here and talk about it all we want. But again, what is most important? What's most important is what's actually happening, not what we're expecting to happen, right? So what we want to do is we want to act on what's happening. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, we're going to talk about NVIDIA, fine. We can talk about SMCI, fine. But there's one big takeaway between Palo Alto and the other takeaway is NVIDIA. And this is the takeaway that we have to understand. You're in an earnings-driven market. Now, there are times when it is the Fed and inflation that's driving the market, or technicals are driving the market. It is very clear right now that it is earnings-driven. And these are the kinds of markets that I like. I didn't really have a sense that it was going to be earnings-driven until we saw this. And why? Why would I say that? Let's flip this out for a minute and change these settings and make this black. It's funny, people say light mode for the evening videos and dark mode for pre-market. Whatever works, I don't mind doing it. But where are we going with this, and why don't we know that it was earnings driven until we saw NVIDIA's earnings? There's a couple reasons for that. The biggest reason that I would say is because we were looking at the performance of how they were treating the nets of the world, right? They really weren't lighting the worlds on fire, the TTD. You weren't really seeing follow through, were you? You just were not seeing any kind of follow through. So that would make you a little cautious. It certainly made me cautious. And then you saw PANW. And you're like, okay, well, is that the canary in the coal mine? No, it's not. It's not the canary in the coal mine. NVIDIA came out. It's actually trading up even more after hours, which is not really surprising at all. We'll get into some of the trades later in the day, but actually bought more even after hours. But why is it doing that? Well, we talked about this last night, but gross margins are through the roof. They're actually going higher as they're producing more, which is just absolutely crazy. This was not anticipated. It wasn't. And what was not anticipated, not only how great the quarter was, no matter what anyone says, I would suggest that you don't listen to Twitter and, as I call them, Froggy Fingers 49. Maybe listen to actually some of the analysts. Like, there's some pretty good analysts at Goldman and JP Morgan. You might want to pay attention to them. They've been pretty dead on here. But what's been happening is 1, 2, 3. We've been getting highs, right, on the market when this happens on NVIDIA. What are you not getting? That. Why aren't you getting that? Because if you listen to the conference call and what he said about unlimited demand on the H200, they can't even come close to quantifying how much money they're going to make off of it. It was really kind of a staggering statement when he was trying to explain how to give guidance. And he's just basically saying we really can't because demand is that great. All right. We all know how this ends. It's a boom and a bust cycle. And we don't know when the bust is going to happen. And I don't really care to be that person that's out there that's going to talk about the boom and the bust, right? This is the hand that we're dealt right now. This is what's going on. And we have to take this into tomorrow and figure out how this is going to play out. Same way you look at SMCI and you go, how in the world is this going to play out? And why is this one down? why we're seeing NVIDIA up. And there's reasons for that. We could talk about the market on close and how you can use that, and you could have deciphered which one was going to go up or had the higher probability of going up. Because in the end, we really don't know, do we? We could talk about RTY. Is this its time to shine? Do we really want to spend time on that? Once again, I think it's a loss. I think the bottom line is what you have to realize is, why is KRE not moving? KRE is not moving because how in the world, with names like NVIDIA crushing, are they going to cut rates? There's only one way they're going to cut rates, and that's when the consumer is weak. Okay, so then you look at Ferrari. Does the consumer look weak? If the consumer doesn't look weak there, how about Louis Vuitton? Is the consumer weak there? Consumer's not weak. I think they just had record earnings, record revenue, even though the stock's not at record levels. All right, how about Hermes? Okay, now all-time highs, I think, right? Okay, so is the consumer weak? Okay, so maybe it's just Europe, and then we could go take a look at ELF. No, they're still buying makeup over here. Okay, so you start going through this, right? You see where I'm going with this? Maybe the kids have stopped going to Abercrombie and Finch. Nope, they're still going there too. Okay, so you have a strong consumer no matter what anybody is telling you on social media. Okay, you have companies that are producing record earnings, record revenues, and ramping up gross margins. Do you really think he's going to cut rates? Is he really going to cut rates? It doesn't mean that they're going back to 5%, but he's not in a hurry here, guys. And so what we have to look is we have to look at the hand that we're dealt. Okay, we have to look at what's going on out there. And right now, the world, our world, and how I look at how I refer to my world is really what the market's doing, right? And what we're seeing is we're seeing a fundamentally driven market. And you're seeing that through NVIDIA, you're seeing that through PANW. One gets punished, okay, and one gets rewarded. Now, I want to walk through some trades, but before we do that, I want to plan for tomorrow. And I also just want to show you a snapshot of what today looked like. Now, I get asked a lot about the P&L, and most importantly about, how do you trade, size, things like that. So I want to go through this one account, and we're just going to say this again, somewhat of a disclaimer. This is an account that is fairly aggressive in its trading, and it's linked pretty specifically to what we do in the community. Meaning, if I do a trade somewhere else and I'm talking about it, I will mimic it in this account so that we can watch it in this account and we can talk about it. So I'll show you what I mean by this in observations. I may take a different stance in a different account. For those that are newer to this, I compartmentalize my trades. So this is an account that's linked to the Alpha Chasers community and what I'm doing in there. This way, it helps me, follow the trades, know, how they're going. But also, when I put something out there, there's some level of like, hey, here's time and sales and how it's going. And that's a really nice thing about the observations. You can just use it as time and sales. But again, what I'm showing here, anybody really cares, I can put all the trades right into a Dropbox, time and sales, and go to town. More than happy to look at them. But this is an aggressive account. This is an aggressive account that we're trading. I will get asked how much is in here. Right now there's 340 in here. And it started less than that. And I'll go through that on Saturday a little bit because I get asked about that as well. And we'll get into some detail on that and how we prepped for NVIDIA. But there's a couple things I want to point out here, okay? Number one, I got extremely specific today. Okay, so when in doubt, I just get super specific. So AMD, I did a trade. I made a little bit of money, not much. This crowd trade, I came in long from last night. Now, this is a strategy we talk about a lot, and anybody can do this strategy. But at 8 p.m. last night, I bought crowd. I talk about this in all the videos. I don't keep this to just the room. Pre-market, we spiked. During the day, it spiked. You can sell it at 7 a.m. You can hold it, whatever you want. But that was the entire trade. Crowd made sense because it went down because of Palo Alto, and then it became very clear what type of market we're in, which is a fundamentally driven market. You're in an earnings-driven market. You should be fully aware of that now. Palo Alto's down 24%, drove down crowd, drove down NVIDIA. NVIDIA comes out, boom, completely different market. Fundamentals are ruling the world right now. That's the leg we're on. It's very clear that it's not technicals. It's very clear that it's not the macro. We are a fundamentally driven market right now. Dell, I did a trade. It just didn't work. They came out and said, we're doing AI too. It just didn't work. Got out. I'm going to go through win rate this weekend too, so you're going to want to watch this weekend. Melly was something I called out. Now, this is something I did in a different account, but I wanted to follow it with this account. So I bought this at like 620. I'll show you the timestamps, and then I just blew it out when it got to like 17 something. It was like 80 points. Really small position for this account, like very small. NVIDIA. So this is a culmination. I think we're up 26 there. And if you look at these zeroed out, I'm hyper-focused overnight, only holding NVIDIA in this account. Other accounts, different. Why am I out of SMCI? I want to talk about this. specifically because how it acted at the end of the day. If you look from 350 on, and we'll talk about this, look at what rallied and what didn't. Market on close orders are institutions positioning themselves for tomorrow. Remember that. Square, I was trading this around. Where's that one? Right here. Square, I was trading around, and we did okay with. AT&T, I shorted because I was annoyed because I came in and my phone wasn't working. RX, somebody else in the room pointed it out. It was a great trade. But this 26, this is not one trade, and you're going to see this on Saturday. This is several trades, and I want you to understand that before we go any further here. And there are several different ways to do this, but it was clearly based upon what was happening last night, and I showed some of that, but I think it's really important for people to get that this is not just one trade. You're not spraying and praying. You're constantly pulling money out of the market. You're constantly adjusting yourself on this position, and we're going to talk about that. And I want to talk about the opening trade that we did here, where everybody was waiting for it to sell off, and then what we saw, and then how we got involved in it, and then how we played it from there. So take a look at this.
I do think it's interesting that NVIDIA is not rolling. I do find that interesting. I do think that that's important. You're just building. So just let it build. I mean, you don't really have to do anything, right? And if you see that flip that doji and you want to play it, then let's go. Then we'll play it. But you got to get some kind of pattern. Now, see these wicks that are starting to form on the downside? See how you're not breaking down? That's telling you that you're probably going to push here. Yeah, I bought some. I bought some NVIDIA there. So watch that bar really carefully right here, but I bought that. But you got to realize it's a trade, okay? So I'm going to pull money out as it spikes up just to lock something in case it reverses. So that's where I added. But I did close a bunch of stuff already. And on those spikes right there, I sold some. So when it was up $2, I sold some, and now I'll just continue to hold. But if it rolls, I'm up $2.50, $4 now, $4 on that trade. All right, so we found the way in and just leave it alone now. So now we're up another $6 on that ad. Just let the ad go. Nothing to do now. All right, cool. We caught it. So that's what we were trying to do, right? We wanted to mitigate our risk off the open, which is what we did by selling. And then we just found it, let it set up. And then we just found a little spot. And like, this was very telling. Why? Wicks are what? Price rejection. You're giving me a hammer where at the top of a chart. So that made life a little easier for us to understand. I trimmed 71 and change. So I'm up $8 or $9 on that. So all that, all from this little bar right there, right? All from that wick we bought right here. And if we didn't go and we went sideways and stayed in there, I'd start peeling it off. So because of that, we were able to stay in here, and now we're up over $10 on that day trade, plus all the money we made last night. Plus, we reduced our risk right off the open. I'm going to trim some stock up here in case that's the push, up 11. I'm going to take this up 10. Now, I'm going to hold this one position because I don't feel like trying to buy it back over and over and over again today. And if I lose $10 on this runner, down less than 50%, then I lose $10 on it.
Now, I hope you found that helpful. What I find helpful is your comments. I do appreciate when you share these because I purposely don't run ads in the middle of them. And that does help me or hurt me with the algorithm. So please share this if you find value in this. What I want to do is I want to walk you through like a really very simple way that you can look at this chart and then come up with where it could wind up tomorrow. And very simple way to do this. You take a look at the hourly and you see the flag, right? And what you want to do is just measure the move. So you can see right here where you're at. And so what we're looking for is a short-term target. And one of the things that you can do is just come right here and you just drop a line on a fib. So your hourly, you're measuring the first long hourly bar. And now we're going to drop this down here, and I'm just going to show you how to do this. We're going to click here, we're going to go to settings, and then what we're going to do is see that 168 level right there. We're going to put these others in here just so you can see where you're at as well. But what you want to do is understand where that level is based upon this low and this high, and that's going to take you to that 804 level. So that's going to be our first target for tomorrow, and we're just going to want to watch that 804, and we're coming right off a fib level, and that's how we're getting there. Now, I'm thinking of another way that people could start understanding this just a little bit better and understanding how you're going to do stock selection. And I think that this is really important, and I think this could benefit us tomorrow. So we're going to spend a little time on this so that everybody gets this, because that's important. And everyone that's been with us for some time knows when I show the sectors, but I do stock selection all day long. And what I'm doing with stock selection is I want to see how things are moving in comparison to other things. Now, for our purposes, if we come over here, we're just going to move this down to when this market actually opened here. So you're going to see the percentages, right? And we're going to talk about after hours and what you should be focused on and what we're focused on. And I just think this is going to be an important thing that you can do for yourself. So what you're going to do is you're going to take, when you have days like this, you're going to take the leaders, right? The ones that are like rocking and rolling that you want to play with. You could do this with semiconductor equipment manufacturers, doesn't matter. and you're going to see SMCI, right? You're going to see NVIDIA. You always want to put in the index here, and you always want to put in the sector, right? So when something's happening like this, like let's say that crowd goes crazy because they're up next for earnings, right? And you're going to want to put cloud in, and then you're going to put all the other names in there and then sort by that way. All right, get it? All right. So what we have here is we have ARM, we have AMD, we have NVIDIA, we have SMCI, and this is the stuff that we want to pay attention to. What does this mean? It means by sorting this way, we know where we want to put the money. So when we start out the day, everybody thinks that we should be in NVIDIA. And as the day plays on, which one's outperforming? SMCI. I came in and this is what's so important about understanding this. If you listen to people in the room, I came in on the premise that ARM was going to benefit greatly from this. Okay, I thought ARM was really going to benefit from this. This is where ARM is. So I have two decisions to make. One, do I stick with my gut and keep trading ARM? Or do I start trading the one that's breaking out and going higher? Well, it boils down to why are you trading? Are you trading to make money or are you trading for ego? Because it really doesn't matter what I think. What I think is completely irrelevant. And if you don't get that, you might want to get that concept. What you think doesn't matter. What matters is what's the scoreboard at the end. The scoreboard's your P&L. Nothing else matters. Your opinions don't matter. The market doesn't care. It doesn't matter. I was under the premise that this was going to do well because of last quarter. It did not. So instead of trading this, my position, blew it out in the morning, started trading the videos we just showed you. Later in the day, the guys in the room, guys and girls, are trading SMCI. I'm not really paying attention to it yet, and then it did something where it started to pull back and couldn't make a lower low. And other ones were doing what? Making the lower low. All right, so other ones are making the lower low, so I stop there and I start trading AMD, and I make a little money on AMD. You can see that in the P&L. And then I look at this, I'm like, this is setting up, and this is outperforming. See the outperformance right here? Okay, so I have a decision to make. I can either trade it, or I can just say it's wrong and it shouldn't be doing this. And then it comes out that the secondary that they did was just went to a few hands, so now people are panicking because they didn't get the convert. So then the reason why it's doing what it's doing happens versus where we are. Okay, so that's something to think about. Now, you're looking at this, and there's a trade that we do, and you guys are aware of this trade. If you watch these videos, we buy at 8, sell at 7. You could actually sell at 4 if you're with the right broker, right? When the Asian market opens and they get access. But you want to do those trades when the iron's hot, because the iron's not always hot, and we know this. So you have to strike when the iron's hot, right? Strike first, strike fast. You know, for those that are like in their 40s, sweep the leg. So then when you look at this, you go, okay, well, clearly I want to be in some of these overnight because this could continue into tomorrow when everybody starts looking at this overnight. Okay, so you take that process, right? And this, I think, is more important than us talking about some of the other stuff, but you can comment below, but I think that this is a really important lesson. So then we take all our knowledge and we say, you know what? We want to hold some of these overnight. Okay, which ones do you want to hold overnight? Well, you'd want to hold SMCI because SMCI is the winner. You definitely don't want to hold ARM, right? And you don't want to hold AMD, but you would want to hold SMCI because you want to hold the leading stock. All right, but we know that 350 is very important. Now, why is 350 important? So I had a call in the room. I'm not going to get into it, but all of it. But I had a call in the room, and I said there are two names that I'm going to buy calls and buy stock on. And one is SMCI, and the other is NVIDIA. That's what I want to do. And what I do is I watch 350. Why do we watch 350? We watch 350 because what happens at 350? Market on close orders. What does that mean? That means at that particular time, the orders are locked in. Forget the number that they play with that makes you think they're going to buy and sell. They're doing stuff on the side anyway, just to make you look at a number, right? But this tells you, are they buying or selling? Are institutions buying or selling? So here's my universe. There's one name. Okay, do I want to buy the one that they're buying, or do I want to buy the one that I want to buy? I want to buy the one they're buying. Okay, so what happens from this point on? They are selling this. So they have market on close orders to get out of here, right? They're getting out while the getting's good, and they are buying only one of these names, NVIDIA. So that tells me, and that's where we go out there at the earnings, and we go out there and say, okay, we're buying NVIDIA. And so what we do is that's the one that we bought. Now, you can see from the room, I'm just going to show this so that you can see it. This is us talking about 806. We didn't quite get there this evening, but I still have the ad, and I wanted to go live to explain it, and then John just types what we're talking about. This can get goofy again tomorrow. The rally, I still have a lot. The reason to move on it, I have no SMCI at this time, but it's 339. Can come in and we could be up. So we're going to buy calls, we're going to buy stock. I'm not going to look at AMD, I'm not going to look at ARM. The process that I just went through and walked through you that you can do for yourself, and that's why watching these videos and your comments are so important, that you can see what I'm actually doing, okay? That would be 2. These are the 2. This is the time. Look at the time I'm typing that, 3:43. What happens 7 minutes later? I would do it as close to 3:59. Why? I want to see the market on close orders. Okay. So then we're doing that. And then note the difference into the closes. I was laughing. Buy more NVIDIA. Focus on NVIDIA, right? Not SMCI. And then we're just trading after hours. And I'm trading Square and some of the other names. Actually did fairly well trading after hours on Melly up 80. You saw some of those trades. But I was watching this SQ at the time. Bought more NVIDIA after hours at 5:45. You can go look at the timestamp. And then I sold some at 7 o'clock. At the time recording this, looks like it's past 8 by the time this will come out. And I'm still there. Now, why is this important? This is important because I just gave you the exact framework on how I made a decision. Let's show you what that decision did tonight. Now you've seen the live timestamps. You can see everything there. You can see everything, and we're going to go through. I'll go through my monthly P&L this week. I'll do it Saturday. Look at the difference, and then look at where you're at if you did SMCI. And all of that by just basically knowing when to look at something. So now you know where the money should flow tomorrow. That's it.